Alright, hey guys, back again with another tutorial. I had some friends ask me about my workflow, and I saw some common questions out there that I could address and maybe help some people out. I'll get through the absolute, basics here and then get into the workflow. So of course, there are plenty of variables that go into creating the best astro and Milky Way shot. The most important being the location. These right here were shot out in Utah. International Dark Sky Association considers it A plus out there. Some of the darkest skies in the United States. So I'll be working with a few of these files. But not only is the location important for the darkness of the sky, but also for the pleasing foreground shot. So in other words, this tutorial isn't necessarily geared for the deep space objects, more wide field and astro-landscape. So location is everything. When you're choosing your location, there's going to be certain things you can control and certain things that you can't. One of the things, to find the darkest skies near you, you can go to darksitefinder.com, and it's just a general representation of light pollution in any given area. The colors are just guides. I mean, there's not exact drop-off where one changes to the other. I've been kind of in different areas, and I've noticed it's not as... It's accurate, but it's also not like a hard fall-off between the two colors. And, I mean, that goes to say, not all light pollution is necessarily created equally. You have different light fixtures and different directions that it could be facing, not only to mention color. And there's certain filters like the Hoya red intensifier that I have, and it limits that frequency, that kind of tungsten orange color that's in a lot of outdoor fixtures. You can control the light. Another thing to keep track of is the moon phase. And with these ones that I shot out in Utah, we were on vacation, so I couldn't really control, even though it was a few days after new moon. The moon out there was just so bright. It was very surprising, but I still came up with some great images. It's important to know that the Milky Way is visible, roughly February to October, peaking in the summer, June, July. You can use apps like Stellarium here, Photographer's Ephemeris to keep up to date with the celestial events. The overall secret, though, of pulling out that Milky Way in your images is not necessarily the camera, but the glass that you use to capture it, the lens. The main rule is wide and fast, meaning wide angle, low millimeter, and fast meaning that it's a wide open aperture, large aperture, or low f-stop. So it's important to determine your sensor size to find out if you have a cropped or full frame, because your focal length is relative to your sensor size. Although your aperture is independent, it won't change. So the combination is wide and fast, not just a wide aperture. Know your 500 rule. It's 500 divided by your millimeter of your lens, and you'll find how long your shutter speed can be until you start to see star trails. So if you're using an EQ mount, most of that is out the window. You don't have to worry about star trails. You can extend your shutter into bulb and do a minute exposure or however long you want to do, in a dark enough location. And one of the things that I've kind of just seen from other people and have really appreciated is shooting in the portrait style versus landscape, because you'll pull out a lot more of the arm of the Milky Way. So give yourself enough time to experiment, because your live view is just going to be a blank LCD screen. So you're going to have to take, 30 seconds at a time or 35 seconds at a time to see the result. If it looks good on the live view, then you usually can expect good results in the software. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into the workflow here. I'll start with these few photos. Okay, so you can see I've imported a few extra files, including this time lapse, just into this folder. But I've done a few edits to these. This is from the same weekend as the other imports. But these are a few ones that I've already edited, and I'm pleased for the most part with them. They're quick, and then there's kind of a previous shot, so you can double check and see, previous, before and after. Alright, so we'll go back to another one from down here. And I'll go ahead and go to the develop panel. You can see all the edits here. And then including the masks. So check out the masks here. The foreground mask. Basically the weird color that I was getting on either side of the horizon masks. Both of these ones. Just where those colors change. And then overall just the arm itself going towards the galactic center. And just controlling that individually. So there's, ways that you can control things independently from one another, but you got to keep in mind that you got to do your, initial edit first. So I'll go back real quick and I'll do one. I'll do this one that was similar, and we'll kind of go through the same process. So what I always do is start with my exposure. Slowly go up. Go a little far and then come back. So I'm good with that there. We're going to go down to the tone curves, or at least this is how I like to do it. You can just see the difference just with that tone curve before even touching any of these basic adjustments. So I'm going to go in to check out my lens corrections real quick to see if I definitely want my lens corrections on that. So it picks out the lens and adjusts so. And then down here, using Lightroom dehaze is one of the better options if you're going to be doing Milky Way type photography. I mean, you can just see the difference. Look at this. And going all the way to the right is where you start to see those kind of crazy colors changing. So, sometimes you can get away with it in the 90s, sometimes you get away with it in the 80s, but I usually try to get it to 50 at least. Luckily, I think I can go a little further with this one. So we'll check out our foreground here. I mean, there's noise, don't get me wrong, but I'll come back to that here in a second. I'm going to say this looks a little blue. I'm going to go up a little bit. It looks a little green. I'm going to go up a little bit with the purples. And I'm still seeing this weird color, but it's not as bad as it could be. So let's just go through our basic adjustments now. And it's a good thing to keep in mind, you want to, at least from this perspective, I'd want to keep in mind, is that I'm basically looking at just the sky right now. The foreground is not as important, so if I want to see that foreground, I'm running into some noise, but I'm also going to affect some of the sky. So I want to focus just on the sky for right now. Okay, so now I'll get into my colors. Alright, so I'm going to stop real quick and just look at these side by side. I mean, definitely a major difference. What I'm seeing in this one is not a whole lot of issue with the horizon color here. So there is some color changes not exactly pleased with, but I'm going to get into that here in a second. So right now, I'm going to go up to my masks. I'm going to create one right down the middle here. Just going to brush it in. And you know, this is optional. I mean, the way that it looked wasn't bad, but I'd like to control the color. So you'll see that the before and after here in a second. So I can really bring out the color temperature of the Milky Way itself. So we'll go on and off here. Before, and then there's that added thing. I'm going to bring down the exposure so that we can mix this a little easier and make it not as obvious. So there's a lot of controls that you can do to bring that mask into a good mix with the rest of your image. Alright, let's go on and off real quick. Look at this. So being able to put that mask on there really gives you the option to change your color temperature independently. And that really makes that Milky Way pop. I mean, as you can see. But one thing that I want to go back real quick on, I'm going to put this on hold. Okay, I'm going to go down here to noise reduction. So we're good there. I'm just going to boost that contrast up a little bit. Okay, so let's go back to our masks. I'm going to create a new mask. Let's put it right here. Doesn't matter where you anchor it. We'll brush this in. And if you need to know, which part of the mask you're missing, just hover right above it. And it looks like I got basically all of it there. Alright, we'll go to our exposure. And let's bump these foreground up. Not too much, but let's make it, at least somewhat visible. And then you can also control your horizon line there too, so I might get that down. And you could use dark frame subtraction here in Photoshop and kind of get rid of even more noise. But since I really want the detail in the Milky Way, I can, really smooth this out without it looking too bad. So I'll get there eventually. And this, the dehaze works in the opposite way. It can really help you soften and lighten at the same time, these foreground. And getting rid of some of that saturation is going to get rid of your color noise as well. So let's soften it a bit. Or actually, I'll zoom in real quick. So there we go with the noise. Could definitely soften that out some more. So I go back to my mask and soften it up. I still think it's maybe a little harsh, but overall the image I'm pleased with. There's a little green and whatnot. I could probably pull that out. All right, let's take a look at before and after. Okay, so I don't do masking with every photo. As you can see from this time lapse here, these were all done without a mask, just metadata files through LR time lapse. And here's a perfect example of just a few of the files. A lit up foreground, but still containing the light. So again, you don't have to do masking, but it does come in handy when seeing it pop. And if you wanted to mask the sequence, you could take it into After Effects and lighten it up there and track it over time. But I'm gonna go up here and just kind of show you this is that same file. I'm gonna go and edit this one instead. So let's go ahead and develop it. Same setup as last time. Focus on the sky first. Okay, so it's important to mention real quick when doing the colors for this image, I'm going to have to do them together at first. So, you can see there's really a lot of this blown out down here. I'm not as concerned with these basic adjustments and how they look on this, but I am concerned on the overall color. So in this case, I'm going to keep it in mind and almost at top of mind, because I'm not going to be affecting a whole lot of colors, but I may, just keep this as one file instead of using a mask for this. But just keep the colors, just keep these colors in mind. Okay, so I'm pretty pleased with that image as is. We'll do the side by side, and definitely a big difference, especially in the foreground. You can see it's gone, and you can look right here and it'll tell you. It's gone in a lot of places. Let's get into the mask real quick for the foreground. Okay, so it looks pretty good as is, but I'm going to go ahead and add a mask just to see what detail I can pull out. Okay, so I'm pleased how that turned out. It's definitely a lot more subtle than the other photo. And I might do one last thing is get one other mask on. Want that darker. And as you can see, I definitely got rid of that red right there. So before, all the red down at the bottom here, and then all three masks at once. This one now I'm gonna bring up just a little bit shadow wise. Thanks for checking out the tutorial. Any thoughts, questions, opinions, send them my way. Here's my link, and also you can find me on social media. So appreciate it, and I'll be back with another one.